Yeah, I want to emphasize the importance of the healthcare directive because that was a big part of my mom's story. So, as we know, the will is about your assets. If you have minor children or special needs children, who would be the guardian of them? So the healthcare directive is who has the legal right to make medical decisions on your behalf. And so my mom, again, because I'm at the doctor's office, she's like, yeah, she's in charge. She's in charge. As I saw her declining, I said, oh, we're going to have to get this in writing.
Right.
And I'm so glad I did, because I vividly remember after she went into cardiac arrest, we didn't know, what was going to be the next steps. I'm at the doctor's I'm at the hospital, and they're like, oh, we can't talk to you. You have to talk to her husband. And I said, whipped out my actually, I'm
in charge.
Don't do me, girl. Okay.
For all of you who are like me, who are a leader in your family, I know you're wondering, how in the world did I get this job? And what am I supposed to be doing with all of this responsibility? So I want you to know we got you, because today on this segment of our legacy building series, we're going to help you navigate what that means to own that role of being that financial leader within your family. So welcome. My name is Jini Thornton, and I'm welcome you again for another episode of the Thank Me Later show with me, your host, Jini Thornton, where we help you master your money and transform your life. So again, our transformation today under our legacy building series is understanding and owning that role of being the leaders within our families. So wanted to welcome back a guest, a colleague and a friend, Teyonna Ridgeway. Hey, Teyonna.
Hello. I'm happy to be back.
I'm happy that you're back. So just for all the formalities, I just wanted to make sure people know who you are. Okay. And then we're going to get into this whole topic of being a leader. It's a topic you and I have talked about a lot together.
Especially in recent months.
Oh, yeah. Whether you wanted to talk about it or not. Well, we've had to talk about that. So Teyonna Ridgeway, who I have the honor of working directly with, is integrated marketing strategist and content producer with over 10 years of experience. She's the marketing and sponsorship director at Thank Me Later, and she oversees communications, marketing, sponsorships, outreach for the Thank Me Later Foundation, and also for my personal brand. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So I think one reason that you and I have always had some chemistry and a connection is I think we play very similar roles within our family, which is the leader role. And this is not typically the job that many of us have asked for. Right. We are given the job. We inherit this job. Mm-hmm. And I think through the lens of Black Women Will that we have the honor and opportunity to work with so closely, you really get to see what that means in the context of Black Women Will. So before we start talking about all things Black Women Will, I forgot to mention, y'all, listen, if you're here today, we need you to like, subscribe, and share this information. So I want to make sure you do that. You know somebody who absolutely could benefit from this information. So I want to make sure that you pass it along. So let's, first of all, before we get into this leadership role, let's talk a little bit about Black Women Will. So I guess about 4 years ago now, I had this idea, and I'm like, oh, maybe we could prepare wills for people for free, Black women for free. And when I said it to you initially, you were like, what were you thinking? Honestly, you can be honest.
I had to think about it.
Tell the truth.
I thought it was a good idea. Mm-hmm. I knew nothing about estate planning, so I knew nothing about the work it took.
How.
Yeah. But I'm like, hey, sure, that sounds like a good idea. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was a good idea, but had no clue of the execution part.
So over the past 3 years, I think we've helped almost 300 women get their estate documents in place. And in the context of leaving a legacy, that's really important because we're in this grind, work, accumulate. And there is very little intentionality around how are you going to protect your legacy?
Yeah.
And that could be your stuff and your money, but also it could be your parents' or your grandmother's house. Like, what are y'all doing? Like, what is your plan around that? And that's really the intention around Black Women Will. We can't help everybody. We're not trying.
Right.
But we really want to normalize estate planning and also help our community. That the largest transfer of wealth in U.S. history has already started because the baby boomers are passing away. They got a whole bunch of money, y'all. And these are maybe your grandparents or your parents who have accumulated. They may not be rich to other people.
Yep.
They got that house
something.
though. Oh my gosh, got that retirement, got that pension. So it's really important that we take this really seriously. And so we've come up with a very interesting, fun way of doing Black Women Will. So kind of talk about that. You've been really instrumental in helping to create the energy and the environment of Black Women Will.
Yeah. So I have a little story about that.
Okay.
So I remember in 2021, we had the 12-month calendar. So essentially every month we were focused on a different area of finances. And I want to say estate planning was in August or so. And I remember us having a session and we had guidelines and, how to do the work. And I remember questions about well, this is hard though. Like emotionally, how do I deal with this?
Yeah.
And that kind of made me think, in order for people to do the work, we have to address the emotions behind it. And that led to us trying to change the energy and make it about leaving your legacy and what you're doing now, what you're going to pass on, versus I'm thinking about what would happen if I pass away.
Right.
So that 12-month calendar really helped to kind of focus on that topic.
And I appreciate you acknowledging that this can be hard.
Yeah.
It's emotionally, it can be difficult, but it doesn't change the fact that the work still has to get done though. And I think just helping people manage that, because I think a lot of times people hit that emotional block and they're like, ooh, they shut everything down.
Right, can't do it.
We still have some business that we have to take care of here.
And recognizing that this area of finances isn't like credit or taxes where it's like you check it off and it's done. It's like there's so much to it. And then having the estate plan is one thing, but then the other ways of leaving your legacy that we talk about, just kind of looking at it holistically. So I think that's why that emotional and mental work is so important, because in order to make change and transform, you have to deal with that first.
So when we started Black Women Will, you did not have your documents together. You're a homeowner. Girl, you got some stuff. You got some assets and you got some people you care about. So what was the catalyst for you to go ahead and get your stuff in place?
Honestly, at the time in the first year, I didn't really see that I needed it. It was mainly to be able to market it. So you had this idea, I'm helping you to bring it to life. But if I've never gone through the process, I can't authentically tell people what they should be doing and how to deal with those emotions. So honestly, it wasn't like I need to get it done. It's like, oh, I probably should. And in order to do my job, I need to know the process. But also I'm just kind of the type of person where it's like, okay, this is something that makes sense and I should do it. So it naturally happened after that. But it really was stemmed from being able to market it.
I see a lot of times people who are in your age group, these young professionals under 40, and it just could be like the furthest thing from your mind that you need to get it done.
Yeah.
But you still need to get it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's more than just if you own a house or not. It is about what you're going to transfer. And you never know what's going to happen. So just having a plan in place, knowing that it can change, but
Sure.
taking the time to do it now is so important.
So talk a little bit about your role in your family and how it's contributed to you helping with the mission of Black Women Will. Because, again, you may be the youngest child, but I feel like you are in charge.
I am.
You are in charge. Own it, girl. Own it.
am.
I know. You're not saying it happily, but own it. So let's just talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of times there's some misconceptions that birth order can matter,
Yeah.
or a lot of times in certain families, what the male child is leading, whether he's capable or competent or not. Just some old school things.
Right.
So how does that work in your family? You're the leader. You're the financial leader.
Yep. So I blame it on my childhood self. because I was bossy and I was telling people what to do then.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, girl, you've been the boss so
all this time.
Now
right?
you're gonna be it for real. So I have 2 older siblings, and we'll talk about my mom and my stepdad. And so I just kind of inherited it again because of how I was as a child. But then I was the chosen one, and like I went to school. I, had all these scholarships. I did all these things. And so they're like, okay, yeah, you're the one. You're the one that's equipped for it. Yeah, you've been prepared for this.
You've been prepared for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's maybe the difficult part for a lot of people who are leading and they didn't see themselves leading, but you have been putting points on the board the whole time. Yeah. You have displayed the behavior, the business acumen, the resource, you're resourceful, like all of the things. You're good under pressure. Like you have been applying for the job the whole time, not realizing that you were literally applying for the job, and you get the job and you're like, I don't want the job.
Somebody else can have that job. But I also am just like, I know I have a certain way I do things. So when I accepted that I was the leader, it's like, well, I feel good about this because I know it's going to be done thoroughly. I know, it's going to be thoughtfully. So it is a role that you may not want, but I felt like I was equipped for it.
Right. You just made me think about something. Several years ago, I had a great aunt that lived in Los Angeles, and she had this doctor's appointment and taken transportation. We couldn't find her this day. Like I'm like having like this meltdown of a meltdown. Mm-hmm. So I'm literally in the car with David, and like I am like boohoo crying in the car because I've had the stress of being in charge of this woman all this time. Mm-hmm. And then he said to me, you know what? It's actually better this way because when you're making decisions and when things have to happen, you don't have to get a bunch of people on board together.
True.
Like you get to now, you're carrying the load, but think about how much easier it really is, right? Because you don't have to be in agreement. Like you are executing the plan.
What do you decide?
That whatever I want to decide, yep. And that shift in perception really helped me because you're you feel like you want people to help you and support you, but it's like, girl, this might be easier.
Right? They might be in the way.
They might be in the way.
Right.
So take the responsibility, and I'm talking to anybody out there who is the leader, and I understand the responsibility of what that means. And you're like, your life is lifing, and you have this too. And the answer to that is yes. So it's like, now how do you emotionally grow into that role? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you have to catch up with the fact that you have this responsibility, and doesn't mean that you abuse your power. We're not talking about abusing power, but what we're saying is some things have to get done. Yep. Whether it's caring for certain relatives, some financial things are going on within the family, like someone has to lead. And you, the one that I'm talking to, it might be your job. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And tell me though, with the dynamics of you being the youngest, has that ever been an issue? Because I know some family dynamics, like the birth order can really matter in certain families. Other families, like not so much.
Yeah, not for my family. My siblings, I think they embrace that I'm the leader. I think they don't want the responsibility, honestly. So they're like, hey, she got it. Ooh, girl, so that's never been, and my brother is the oldest. Right. So I've never had a power struggle with him.
Love that.
So I think it just kind of worked out with my family of like, we're rooted in love, what is best for everybody, and not like who should be the one in charge.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, certainly that makes things a lot easier.
Definitely.
Having the job. Yeah, fighting with folk takes a whole lot of energy. So before I continue with some more questions, we did have a caller on the Thank Me Later hotline this segment and want to see who needs some help from us today, Teyonna.
All right.
Hi, my name is Stephanie and I'm calling from Charlotte. My question is, my brother passed away recently and it reminded me that I need to complete my estate plan. Honestly, I'm stuck in fear. I have so much going on in my life right now, and the last thing I want to talk about is what would happen if I die. How can I push past this fear?
All I keep thinking, Teyonna, is if we had $1,000 for every time we heard this,
right,
you might not find me with a search warrant, is what I'm thinking.
Right.
But not to make light of it, but estate planning can be extremely emotional because you're you're thinking about some potential like worst case scenarios of, again, you've passed away or you're very sick, and people have trouble seeing, or making some decisions based on that set of facts, and they get stuck in that emotion of it.
Yeah, I think it's about feeling the fear, but doing it anyway. The fear is going to be there. To act like it's not is doing yourself a disservice.
Please don't pretend.
Yeah, like if you need to journal about it, if you need to talk about it, pray, cry, whatever it is, feel it, but the work still has to be done.
The work absolutely has to get done. And like Teyonna said, having those emotions, that's common. I'm like, who can do this without feeling something?
Right. If you didn't, it'd be like, are you human?
It's like, yeah, what is wrong with you? But still having a very specific timeline, though, I think will help. Like, go ahead.
Don't let it drag out.
Don't let it drag out. Go ahead and make the appointment, whatever you got to do, have the talk with your family, whatever is on the list for you. Like, be extremely intentional about having those deadlines and those commitments and just moving that schedule ahead. Because on the other side of it, one thing we know this from Black Women Will, I just love the relief and the celebration. And people are like, oh my God, do you know how long I've been putting this off?
Peace of mind.
I'm so happy that this is over. And now I'm not worried about my mom or my kids or my sibling or whatever that is. Like, there's a plan. There's no, like, they are so relieved after Black Women Will.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's such a celebration. It's like, it's a huge milestone.
You did it.
Yeah, you did it.
Yeah.
So again, you have to kind of compartmentalize a little bit, feel the feelings, only give yourself a certain amount of time to do that though.
Right.
Only get a certain amount of time. And then we've got to get to the business because we can do hard things.
Absolutely.
This is just one of the hard things that is on the list.
And I'll just add to that too. I think what you were kind of saying is remembering why you're doing it.
Right.
Like, you're doing it for your family so that they don't have chaos. They have order. They know who's in charge. So I think that's why it's really important to just push past the fear and get it done.
Right. So for those of you who need some resources and some guidance on this topic, again, you can certainly tap in with us within the Thank Me Later community. And then also you can go to blackwomenwill.com. So all things you want to know about estate planning, our most amazing event in Georgia, you can certainly tap in with us about that. So I was really, I have to say, proud of you that you were ready to talk about the situation with your mom. I know how difficult that is.
Not my head.
I know. Like, I don't want to do it.
Was I ready?
I know. I don't want to
Felt
do
led
it.
to.
I know it. So I'm happy that you felt led to, because I know your mom passed away a year ago. And with that, you were in charge. So you were in charge of everything. You were in charge of when she was ill and all the health things that had to happen, all those decisions that needed to be made, leading when it came to the funeral, wrapping up her business, being the lead with your sibling and your stepfather, like, and still living your life.
Yeah.
Like, you were in charge of that entire process. So I'm just curious, what are you kind of comfortable talking about and sharing? Because I think it's really important that people understand that, first of all, I admire how prepared you were.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were prepared for the business. I also appreciated how when you needed wise counsel, you got it. You know, you needed help. But the thing I think, Teyonna, that I admired about you the most was when your mom was still ill, you began taking care of business then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as someone who had to do the same thing when my mom was ill, I think that was a game changer for me. I don't think I realized it until after the fact.
You got a head start.
I got a real head start for real. So I'd love to kind of talk to you about your head start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Like, did you know? Was it us talking? Like, did you just kind of feel led to? Or like, why did you kind of start executing on some of the things that you needed to related to your mom's business affairs?
Yeah, well, I'll say I'm an open book.
Right.
So we can talk about it all. And you gave me kudos. I have to give you a lot of credit for this. I really felt like you were coaching me through it. So you combined with, what we're teaching with Black Women Will, you put me in contact with Michelle Davis. Shout out to Michelle. I know she watches the podcast.
Right.
So I had the outlets and the guidance that I needed to do it. So getting a head start, I think the biggest way I got a head start was I accepted that my mom was passing.
Yeah.
Like, my siblings, they're like, well, to kind of tell the story, because it does shape it. So my mom went into cardiac arrest. She had already was ill, was in and out of the hospital.
Right.
And so I remember being on the phone with you multiple times at the hospital.
Right.
You're guiding me on like, hey, you need to be talking to the doctors. You need to know when they're doing their rounds.
Right.
You need to have your notebook.
Right.
Like, you are giving me the playbook, really.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that this is where we were going to end up, but I was taking your steps. And so my mom health declined very quickly. We discovered in me going to the doctor's appointments. Again, you said treat it like your doctor's appointment. It needs to be on your calendar.
Yep.
And so in going, I'm hearing what the doctors are saying firsthand versus hearing what my mom was saying. Because she's living through it. So she's like, yeah, I think they said I had this. And I'm like, okay, what did he say?
Right.
For real.
Right.
And so taking all of that information and just kind of accepting that this is where we are.
Right.
That was very helpful. And then, again, just kind of doing my own inner work to make sure that I am prepared to be the leader.
Right.
Like, so me being in therapy.
Sure.
Me doing meditation, because I know that this is my assignment.
Right.
So I'll say that was really instrumental. And then, like I said, when she was in and out of the hospital, she went into cardiac arrest. When I saw her after going into cardiac arrest, I think that was the first time of like, oh no, she's not coming back.
You knew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, let's mentally start getting there now.
Right.
And so after that, it was probably a month or so until like we took her off of life support.
Right.
But again, I was mentally prepared to let her go.
Right.
So I'm writing the letters. I'm listening made the playlist. I mean, I had a lot of different outlets, like I said, playlist of songs that reminded me of her, and did all the work, picked out the obituary photo, like before we had even took her off of life support.
Right.
Because again, I accepted that this is where we are.
Right.
So then when it was time to take her off of life support, I think in being a leader, it's knowing that you have a certain vision in mind, but it's also letting everybody speak.
Sure.
Right. So I didn't.
You didn't walk in here like today's
we're
the day.
taking her off.
Right.
Like,
right.
Whoa.
Right.
Because my siblings really fought that. Like they were like, no, there's still a chance. Like, put a trach in her throat, give her a feeding tube, and I let them say, yeah, I hear you, and I see you. Yep, that's true. However, that's not the quality of life that she wanted. My mom was a very vibrant woman.
Right.
Big personality.
Oh my gosh, right.
She girl, stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think I was able to accept it and act accordingly, but then still give my family the space to share their opinions. But I knew eventually y'all are going to be on my side.
Right. Right. And like I said, I appreciate that. And I think it's difficult for people like you and I who have been in that role, and someone that we care about, our mothers are ill. We've accepted it, and now we are in work mode. This does not mean that we don't love them. It just means what you said. We have accepted the facts. Doesn't mean we don't believe in God, that we don't believe in miracles. I think you just know.
Yeah.
And like you, I just knew.
Yeah.
And I also just felt like there was this gear that I just shifted into this other gear of like, we need to get to work right now.
For sure.
I considered it a blessing to be able to get some of the work done in advance too. And I know everyone isn't built for that, but it just was like, we need to get moving.
It has to get done.
It has to get done.
Right.
I think it also helped me use my time too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it helped me feel kind of resourceful and purposeful during that time.
Yeah.
So no, I was so proud of how you handled it, and how like you were, again, not tunnel vision where you were tuning out people, but you understood the business, that you needed to deal with. Watch you deal with your mom's employer. dealing with her insurance.
Yeah.
Like there was a list, like boom, one thing after the other. And I'm like, this girl is really pulling from her Thank Me Later Black Women Will Tool book.
Shout out.
Like, one thing after the other, the other. And you really, really managed it well, but also asked for help when you needed it though. So I really appreciated that.
Thank you. I think I was able to, again, compartmentalize it. Like I remember even with the funeral, like I was real producer mode. Like it was like as if it wasn't my mom's funeral, but I'm just like, okay, we're ready to go. Let's go. Yeah. And I did that, but then I grieved separately.
Right.
So it's like finding the balance of doing both.
Absolutely.
But the work has to get done.
Right.
And
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I appreciate that because I think you just highlighted, where I was. Like, I was like, let me double down on this business now.
Yeah.
And then I will absolutely make the time to grieve after. But we're going to get all this stuff done and done the way that my mother would want it done too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm not playing with the standard of how things are going to be handled. Because she would not have it any other way.
Yeah. She's like, come on, do right by me.
And so any advice for people who they're going through a tough situation? Loved one is very ill. You know, loved one has recently passed away. Got a lot to manage. So you are literally just a little bit more than a year out of this. What tips or advice would you have for folks?
Yeah. So I would say to take your time. Yeah. Give yourself grace. Take it day by day. I mean, I allow my emotions to be up and down. In the privacy of my own home. Right. But so I think allowing yourself to express it all, that would be a tip. I think leaning on community is really important. So whether it's, you know, and I think I'm a very like expressive person anyway, but I didn't hide what was going on at home because that impacts how I showed up at work. So
for sure.
I was transparent with you of like, if my energy is reading off, it's not because of this. It's because of what I'm dealing at home. So I think being open and transparent with people and letting people in. And sometimes that looks like, you know, venting. Sometimes that looks like going out for dinner with your friends. Like, I think just having outlets is really important. And so that includes social, but I'm a big advocate for therapy. I really don't think I would be where I am without it.
Me neither.
Changed my life. And so having that outlet has been a game changer for me. So having outlets, I would say, is my biggest tip.
And the only other thing, Teyonna, that I was thinking about is, you know, for your situation and for my situation, it was new to me, but not new. Yeah. And so there are some very defined steps that have to happen, you know, business steps that just have to happen. There's a protocol, you know, that has to be followed. Right. And so I don't want people reinventing the wheel. Yeah. Again, it's new to you. It's not new. And so being able to lean in the right way to get that direction, because I'm like, I couldn't get my footing, but I'm like, why am I supposed to know? Right. You know,
how would I have known this?
How would I've known? So that's why I appreciated whenever you were reaching out to me. And I was like, oh yeah, do this. Okay, now it's time to take care of this. And you could, that I think also gives you a lot of relief.
Yeah. Because you don't have to figure it out. You're like, I can execute. Right. That's my job. Right. But coming up with the plan when I have no idea how this works, is like there could be tools for you to be able to do that.
Just last thing that I want to really shout out to you and your family about is I just appreciate, first of all, how organized you all were, critical. Y'all weren't scrambling like, oh my God, where's this? What are we doing about this? Like, y'all knew where everything was. You already knew what the plan, you know, how your mother wanted things to be. Yeah. You weren't like, oh my, who do I get in touch with her employer? Like, you knew everything. So again, I'm looking directly into the camera. That's why it's so important that you have these conversations with the people who are close to you. It might be family, it might be friends. The more information that you can share, things are just so much easier.
For sure.
It is so much easier. And because, you know, I brag about that all the time about my mom. Like, I didn't have to make one decision. I didn't have to look for one thing. I knew everybody to call. I was just like, tick it down the list. Done. So I'm like, I felt like I was winning. Now I can go grieve.
Yeah, right. Because you handled that. And I think for my family, a part of the organization was I was very close with my mom. So I knew her coworkers. I, you know, knew certain things. But I think it was also about having conversations early. So my mom didn't have a will. She did have a healthcare directive. But I remember talking, and this might have been stemmed from Black Women Will and working with you, of like, so I would want to be cremated. I remember having that conversation, and we had a funny conversation of, she's like, yeah, I want to be cremated too, and I want to be a tree, plant me as a tree.
Right.
So like, I knew about her wishes, definitely get your estate plan done. But my mom didn't have that. But I knew what was her wishes. So I think having the conversations and just by you opening up and sharing what your wishes are, that will create a space for other people to do the same.
Right. And the only thing that I'm going to say is your family situation is rare and unique. Mm-hmm. That level of working together on the same page, no one is like trying to scratch somebody's eyeballs out.
Yeah.
Your family is incredible. And it typically does not happen that way. Mm-hmm. And I really want to stress that for everyone else who they don't have their documents and things together.
Yeah.
Like, don't just assume that it's all going to be
roses.
It's not because the majority of the time it's not. In death, all bets are off. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when there's some tension and some problems with the family, in death, all bets are off.
Yeah.
So please take the time to make sure that you are putting things in writing and having the conversations. Mm-hmm. So we just don't want people out here freestyling, making their own decisions.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing, your story. Anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, I want to emphasize the importance of the healthcare directive because that was a big part of my mom's story. So, as we know, the will is about your assets. If you have minor children or special needs children, who will be the guardian of them. So the healthcare directive is who has the legal right to make medical decisions on your behalf. And so my mom, again, because I'm going at the doctor's office, she's like, yeah, she's in charge. She's in charge. As I saw her declining, I said, oh, we're going to have to get this in writing. Right. And I'm so glad I did because I vividly remember after she went into cardiac arrest, we didn't know, what was going to be the next steps. I'm at the doctor's I'm at the hospital and they're like, oh, we can't talk to you. You have to talk to her husband. And I said, whipped out my actually, I'm in charge. Don't do me, girl. Okay. So
not today, boo.
Right. I'm prepared.
Right.
And she's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Let me scan this. Let me get it in.
Right.
Energy changed. But understandable. Like my stepdad was going to be the one
absolutely
in charge, but he was not going to be equipped for this conversation.
Absolutely.
So
and
that was important.
He may have loved your mom from this side of the globe to the other, but he was not able to lead. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Right.
That's just the truth.
He was like, you got it.
And he didn't even want to leave. Tell the truth, right?
He's like, please.
But just, what a powerful story. You're like prepared. Do you know how difficult that would have been had you not had that document?
Mm-hmm. Having to speak through my stepdad. God. It's nonsense.
No, absolute nonsense. And it doesn't have to be that way. We're talking about one piece of paper. That's it.
Yeah.
You're literally talking about one piece of paper.
Looking for me of like, oh, we need to talk to you. And
yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. That's a powerful story too. And what it must feel like to be empowered. Like, not only do I think that I'm in charge. No. I can prove.
Right. Legally. Like I know my mom said it.
Yeah.
But legally.
Here it is right
She
here.
wrote it.
Yeah. So that is huge. Thank you for sharing
that.
With the energy too.
And I owe it to Black Women Will though, because I knew kind of what a will was, but I didn't know what a healthcare directive was. So
powerful.
Yeah, the work we're doing is amazing.
Oh, I'm proud of that. Well, thank you. It's been a heck of a journey these 4 years with Black Women Will. Woo, getting geared up for the next one.
Yes.
And just hearing stories like this reminds me of the work that we do, why we do it. Because we literally are impacting families for generations. And it's about so much more than just money.
Yeah,
it's about these situations like this too. Mm-hmm. Being able to help people navigate through that could be some very difficult times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So thank you.
Yes, thank you for the vision, Jini.
Oh, yeah. My pleasure. So before we wrap up, so what does leaving a legacy mean to you?
Leaving a legacy means having something that lives beyond you. So that could be assets, but that also could be music. It could be family heirlooms, like just having something to pass down to someone else.
I love that. And, we need to be very intentional about our legacy. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And you will continue to be able to use your story to help other people too.
And that's my hope. Again, was kind of like, ooh, I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it, but I felt like this was a way to honor my mom.
Absolutely.
And to tell the story and hopefully help somebody else.
And help someone else, because a lot of people need help.
Yeah. They need to hear
very difficult time.
A real life situation.
Oh, for sure. It's a game changer for sure. So for those of you who need some help, again, please go to the Thank Me Later community to get some support. You can also go to Black Women Will, our website, tons of information. You can stay in touch with Teyonna. She is on LinkedIn. Again, an incredible member of our team that has been able to bring Black Women Will to life over and over and over again. And you always make me look so good. I just want to say that. Girl, you be making me look good out here.
You make it look easy. You make it easy, Jini.
So, again, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Thank Me Later show with me, your host, Jini Thornton. And listen, like, subscribe, share, and we want to hear from you. We know y'all got some money stuff going on that you need some help with, and we want to talk about the things that you need us to talk about, not just what we want to talk about. So we'd love to hear from you. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see y'all next episode. Thank y'all.
Yeah.